Now, in a significant development, Canada's top police official has said that there is currently no evidence linking India to the ongoing clandestine activities or the transnational repression in the country. Well, that is the big breaking news that we're beginning the bulletin with. Mike Duheme, the Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, said that based on the current investigation, there is no active connection between foreign interferences cases and the Indian government. He stated that while cases of intimidation and harassment still exist, authorities have not been able to link them to any foreign entity at this point in time. The remarks come after years of strained ties between Canada and India, because remember, in 2023, former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had alleged possible involvement of Indian agents in the killing of a Sikh leader, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, claiming that something that India strongly denied. Subsequently, both nations expelled diplomats amid escalating tensions. More recently, Prime Minister Mark Carney has faced criticism over efforts to reset relations with India, even as concerns over foreign interference persisted. However, officials now suggest that Canada has systems in place to detect and counter such threats, and recent engagements between leaders signal a possible thaw in relations. The latest statement from Canadian authorities could mark a turning point in diplomatic ties, though concerns around foreign interference remain under close watch. My colleague Verghese is joining me right now to get us more details. Verghese, this is a significant development taking place as far as Canada's position is concerned over India's link to any of the activities that are taking place in Canada, transnational repression or clandestine activity. It seems to be an absolute U-turn. Safe to say that India stands vindicated, with there being no evidence to substantiate the claim that was initially being made during Justin Trudeau's time.
Well, interestingly enough, the words that have been used by the Commissioner is something that we need to understand, because he says the current investigations say that there is no clandestine activity that is linked with the government of India. And interestingly enough, this comes just after Carney's visit to India, and they did in fact say that such a huge visit wouldn't take place if they thought that India was involved in activities inside Canada. Now, one of the biggest issues when Trudeau was there was the question about foreign interference in internal matters of Canada, especially with regards to ethnic groups. It was something that was raised within the Trudeau government, because Trudeau was also dependent on a significant Sikh vote as well, and at the same time with what would be considered as the Khalistani movement. Now, we did see that Khalistani leaders had in fact emerged within the parties that had given support to Trudeau, and therefore there was pressure from all sides with regard to Nijjar's killing, and therefore Canada's RCMP had initially said that there were connections that were linking with the government of India. But that had led to a nosedive when it came to the relations between India and Canada, and as the relations hit rock bottom as Trudeau continued as the Prime Minister, and later after he stepped on, and then you have Mark Carney in fact taking over, and then Mark Carney's stated objective was to reset Indo-Canadian ties. And once those ties were in fact reset, we do see that there are these allegations that were put out by RCMP. They seem to be in fact now coming up and saying that though there are some cases that have been reported, but connecting the dots and then placing it on a foreign entity, well, that kind of evidence doesn't exist. And that's why he says that I am telling this after looking at the totality of the files that we have with us. So he says the connecting of the dots is not being done. Basically say they don't have anything that actually puts something directly that connects Indian government with what had happened. Now, Nijjar's killing has been a significant point, because that is where the investigations had carried out. They had in fact said that agents of the government of India was present in Canada and carried out with this kind of a killing. But with the RCMP coming out with this, and also the report of constant improvement of ties, well, that shows that the reset is almost done. And at the same time, there is a huge economic advantage that Canada has been looking at when it comes to India. It's been Canada has been a very important trading partner as well. So the economic ties are something that Canada has been trying to ensure that it continues, and therefore you see the reset happening. But with the Royal Mounted Police, in fact, the Canadian Mounted Police coming up with a statement like this, in fact shows that probably that animosity that was there during that period, the internal politics that was being played in Canada, especially with the Khalistani extremists having a hold over Trudeau's government, well, that kind of a politics in which it was very easy to blame India with regard to the separatist activity or the killing of certain Khalistani leaders, well, that is something that has no longer in the picture with Carney in place. So Carney, the RCMP's statement, in fact, is not a technical U-turn, but just saying that there is nothing that connects with the government of India as such.
Absolutely, Varghese, like you were mentioning, that it was the Sikh leader Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing that ruffled feathers between India and Canada. But now with Mark Carney coming to India in early March, meeting the Prime Minister, the bilateral that took place, the statements that were made together, the joint statement, it goes on to show that the relation between India and Canada is on the mend. But does it mean that Canada made India a convenient scapegoat when it comes to blaming, either when it comes to the Khalistani clandestine movement or for Hardeep Singh Nijjar's killing?
See, the issue over here is that we should see from the larger context, because when a report was in fact made with regard to the foreign interference in Canadian affairs, India was only one part of it. There were other nations, like even Pakistan in fact mentioned with regard to the foreign interventions that could happen in Canada. Russia was in fact mentioned with regard to it. So it was more of a Canadian issue that was highlighted, saying that there were foreign governments involved in Canada's policy and the Canadian architecture of its dealings with these countries. And therefore, this was an issue within, saying that does Canada still hold sovereignty and does its citizens enjoy that sovereignty as such when it comes to their citizenship, as well as whether Canada's ability to project that particular sovereignty on the scale. So that was the kind of debate that was going on in Canada, and this was in fact tied to it with Trudeau also in fact raising this issue. His government was also raising this issue that there was a lot of foreign interference within Canada's affairs. So that is something that was actually brought out, and that was the point at which the relations had in fact nosedived with Nijjar's killing. But interestingly enough, right now it looks like it's not that question is settled, with rather Mark Carney coming in and saying that Canada is in fact having there's no kind of a foreign interference that Canada is looking at, and probably he's also resetting ties with everyone, his neighbors. He's also resetting ties with the others that the Trudeau government, other entities as well as on the global level where Trudeau government had in fact had a negative relationship with. So it is a reset away from Trudeau's policies, and therefore what we are seeing now is probably that outreach that has happened and paying dividend, and therefore you see these accusations going into into the background.
Right. Well, thank you, Varghese, for getting us all those details. We shall leave it at that for the moment. But remember, in Canada, it was in 2023 when the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had alleged the possible involvement of the Indian agents in the killing of a Sikh leader, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, claiming that India had strongly denied. That subsequently, both nations led to expelling diplomats amid escalating tension. But now recently, Prime Minister Mark Carney had also faced criticism over efforts to reset ties with India, even as concerns over foreign interference still persisted. This might just be the new dawn of bilateral ties between India and Canada, with Canada's top cop putting out a statement saying that there is no evidence linking India to the ongoing clandestine activity or the transnational repression in India.